Welcome to the Real Personal Branding Podcast. I'm Lauren V. Davis, and if you don't know me, I would love to meet you. I own a personal branding consultancy, and I work with speakers and small business owners all over the world to help them tell their stories and truly connect with their audiences and build the life that they love through the power of personal branding and communication. Some of you might not know, or you might know, that I used to own a vinyl record store too, and I have a gigantic heart for small businesses. So I love to take those core concepts that I've learned through building a community around a legendary local business and apply them to building your audience and community from the stage or online. On this podcast, I'm excited to bring you inspiring conversations with guests who share the real stuff, the personal stories, insights, celebrations, sometimes even the chaos that it took to build their authentic and powerful business. Do you want to build a personal brand that draws people to you like a magnet? Whether you're an entrepreneur, a creative professional, or you just want to make a meaningful impact, I'm here for you now, and we can step into this together. And I'm not interested in sugarcoating the process or painting a picture that's too rosy or full of rainbows. Instead, I want to focus my efforts on giving you the real scoop and letting you know that you are never alone in what you're feeling as you grow. You're human. Being a business is rewarding, and sometimes it is so hard. Sometimes it's euphoric. Sometimes it's somewhere in the messy middle. I'll not only help share these stories, but I'm here to provide you in every episode practical tips that you can start using right away. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. You can find me on practically every social media platform as L. Davis Creative. And if you know someone who could benefit from what we're discussing, could you please share this podcast with them? It truly helps me grow. It helps this podcast grow. It helps me get more guests to come on and teach you, and it helps me reach more people like you. Have you ever felt like you were on the cusp of something great, but you weren't sure how to lean into it? What do you think comes first, commitment or purpose? These are just a few things that we are going to discuss today in my conversation with Michelle Bluitt. My guest today is Michelle Bluitt, and she has a unique story of how she took a chance on building her small business and leaned into her fear, found purpose, pivoting from within that messy middle stage. She had to lose everything first, but she found herself. I'm going to read you Michelle's official bio, and then we'll jump right in. Michelle Bluitt is an entrepreneur, a coach, and a talk show host. Bluitt is committed to helping others create the life and business of their dreams through her talk show, The Journey with Bluitt, where she leads conscious conversations about the spiritual, success, and mindset principles needed to step into your purpose to make your dreams a reality. As a trained life and business coach, Bluitt consciously supports entrepreneurs who are stuck and ready to get into action to create a purpose-driven life and business. In her signature coaching program, Take the Leap with Bluitt, Bluitt guides entrepreneurial dreamers to gain clarity in their vision, strategy, and confidence to get out of their head and take meaningful action to create the impact and money doing what they love. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Real Personal Branding Podcast, Michelle Bluitt. I'm so happy that you're here today.
Hey, Lauren. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. We kind of got introduced through both knowing one of the same people, Selena Sue, and Selena is such a cool person and such a wonderful human being who just has so much love and light for helping people get PR, get publicity, and connect to other people, right? So you and I both have her in common, and we connected, and I was reading through your stuff and I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I would love to have her on my podcast. And you talk a lot about fear and about failure and why people aren't really getting what they want out of life, kind of overcoming that, overcoming self-doubt. Can you walk me through a little bit of your journey as an entrepreneur? Because this is the Real Personal Branding Podcast. And I think it's so important to point out that everyone kind of goes through lots of things in their life that get them to the place that they are now. Yeah. And it's not just how you see online where people are like, oh, I woke up and then I took some nootropics and now I'm a multi-passionate, multi-six-figure entrepreneur, right? Like there's a lot of things that go into building your business. I would love to hear more about your journey into entrepreneurship.
Yes. And I love the real part, right? Because that's what's so needed. That's what I stand for and stand on in all of my conversations. I pray that I give that to people, even on my social media page. If you're watching my show, like I want you to see that first of all, I'm just like anyone else.
Yeah.
With the same fears, with the same failures, with the same struggles. I just choose to take the leap, to move even with all of that.
I love that. So tell me a little bit more about your story. Like, where did you start?
Yes. So started, I got into this game pretty early, Lauren. I started 2 weeks after I graduated college, my first business. And this happened because I was a student at the University of Georgia, and I went on a study abroad trip to Ghana. And I went just to learn a little bit more about the textiles and culture there. But long story short, it wrecked my world. I immediately fell in love with everything about the country. And we were able to do some outreach where I met some really amazing girls, and I heard their stories, connected with their stories, and really was in a place of, what can I do? What is my part? And with asking those questions and having this newfound awareness of like what other people's experience was, I started putting together my ideas and, sharing it with my best friend. And we were like, okay, we're broke college students.
Yeah.
Who has money in college? And so we're like, okay, so we need it to be more than the money than that we have in our bank accounts. And so we had the idea to start selling scarves to help support the girls to go through school. And, I don't think we were quite sure what this was. Was it just like a passion project? Was it a hobby? We didn't really have we were just excited and like putting this together. And yeah, when graduation came, I didn't apply to any jobs. I didn't go to the career fairs. I didn't do the things. And instead I started my business full time, which was transitioned into a luxury scarf company where we sponsored tuition, books, supplies, and uniforms for girls in Ghana to continue their education.
Wow.
And that was the start. That's not the end.
No.
That was one of, the first big leap that I had to take to get me to where I am now.
That's wonderful. You said that's the start, right?
Yeah.
And now tell me a little bit more about who you work with and kind of how that transitioned into what you do now.
Yeah. So the fun part about that story is I also went through a $40,000 loss in that business.
Oh, wow.
In my early 20s, mid 20s. And I always say, it's a hard hit financially, but it's an even harder hit to your ego, because you're questioning like, okay, if my business is a failure, am I a failure? Because we all get so attached to our businesses, to our work, what we do. And I mean, these are our babies. Mm-hmm. These are our kids, and so we pour so much into it. And then when it transitions, when we pivot out of it, when we go through a failure, which sometimes that happens too, we don't know who we are outside of that. And I had to go through this whole kind of transformation of realizing that I am like, Blue is not Renae. I am not my business. My worth is not dependent on my business or anything that I do or anything that I create. And I got so deep in the personal development space just for my own healing initially. Like I was like, I need this. I need some solid ground to stand on. And from doing that work, it also led me to further my talk show, The Journey with Blue, where I lead conversations with some of the nation's top thought leaders and entrepreneurs and coach people on how to create the life and business of their dreams. But how do you do that from like a full and whole self, so that we get to the top, we get the accolades, we get the money, and we can still be our best selves and actually enjoy it, like that's the key. And so, so helping people really overcome their fears and gain the clarity, gain the confidence to take the leap and to go for it. Because I'm like, we only got one life. Mm-hmm. Why not go for it? Why not give it all that we have?
It's so true. What do you feel like is the key to finding that purpose in life as you're kind of becoming more successful? Like a lot of clients that I work with or talk to, or, just people even on this podcast, or they talk about how they've reached some level of success by their own measure, right? Things are happening, things are moving in the business finally. And things are like working the way that they're supposed to be working. But then they ask themselves, well, what's next? What am I supposed to do next? Am I supposed to follow someone else's plan? Am I supposed to listen to my coach or mentor? Like, how do people kind of find purpose as they're growing up this, metaphorical ladder?
Yeah. The thing is, no one else has the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody knows, nobody has like a magic genie ball and can tell you like the future of like, you do this, you put this in, you get this out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wish. And if you have it, let me know because,
Right.
because I need it, so I do think it's great to get advice and to get perspective from other people. But I think really the best thing is you have to kind of like sit with self
Mm-hmm.
and really be silent and and just kind of move and like, what is it, the things that you're just truly gravitating towards? What's the things that light you up? What are the things that are exciting to you to do? And, when it comes to business, when it comes to our careers, I think we always feel like we have to be on to the next.
Mm.
And that is crippling. Like, when do you get to breathe? When do you get to just be? When do you get to just like enjoy where you are? And even, like I just told you, I just came back from LA last night doing a brand partnership with MasterCard. And after things like that, I want to give myself some time instead of immediately coming back and like getting into work and feeling like I have to do this. I need the next deal. I need the opportunity. I need like take a beat.
Right.
Be like, take in where you are, be grateful for what you have, because there's always going to be another level. You hit the 6 figures, then you want to get to multiple 6 figures, then you want to get to 7 figures. It's always going to be another.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, gosh, I hope, we all can also just appreciate where we are as we are achieving and also, just continuing to be our best selves as well.
I listened to a meditation recently where they talked about fear specifically as you're leaning into and like growing into your power. Mm-hmm. That fear is kind of like a stalling tactic, actually. It's like a protection, a stalling tactic of you growing into the next phase of you, whatever that is. And it's meant to protect you, to give you time to figure out what to do. If you're leaning into something that feels really right for you and you're just scared, that you should kind of take that next step. And I know you talk a lot about fear and about overcoming fear and self-doubt. What do you think the biggest mistake or misconception is that people have about fear?
Yeah, I think everyone thinks that that other people have something that they don't. Mm-hmm. That someone again has the answer, someone has it figured out, someone is a better speaker, someone can show up on social media better, someone that we see so many times, like they're doing this easily. And that's not the case.
No. Never.
We're doing this scared. Mm-hmm. And so to your point, even what you were mentioning is like that resistance, right? The fear, you said people are stalling, and it's like, usually that's the thing that you're meant to do. Mm-hmm. I would say the thing that you're meant to do typically is going to scare you, scare the lights out of you. Right. And it's for you to push through that wall, that invisible wall that's keeping you. And when you can do that, that's when you're really you break through to another level.
What are some tips that you have that you can share with us about leaning into that, about pushing through that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a lot of self-talk, a lot of just affirming yourself. A lot of times we just automatically go to the negative, the worst possible scenarios. What? That is so extreme, girl. That's never going to happen. You're never going to be homeless. More than likely, you're not going to be homeless. You may, who knows what the situations are, but I think, having the positive self-talk, also just imagining the good, right? Like I said, since we already kind of just default to the negative, let's think about how great this could be, right? Let's imagine this, how we want this to go for ourselves. And let's move in that energy. I think that's so important. And then I think even writing down the pros and cons, because there's a cost to not going, and there's a cost to going. And, you have to have your peace either way.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, I can deal with the failure. I've gone through it and I go through it more times than I can count, but I'm like, I can't go through the regret. If I didn't take that first leap in college, that first bet on myself at this point in my life, at 10 years later, I don't think I would be able to live with knowing that I didn't try, second guessing what could have been if I would have just gone for it. Because what is there truly to lose? Yes, I went through a $40,000 loss and I'm still alive. I'm still standing. I'm actually in a better place because of it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm more of where I'm supposed to be because of it.
Because of fear, because of failure.
Because of the failure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had to go through that. I needed that. And so being able to take those lessons, even able to take that pain and transform it to something that I can stand on and know that, like, I got this, I can keep going. That's a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that you have any go-to like baseline tactics for yourself when it comes to pushing through something like that, or honestly taking the leap into something? Is there anything that you're like, okay, I go back to myself and I audit myself with these questions?
Yeah. And you know what? This is even what I do within my coaching program.
Okay.
Right. It starts with a lot of the inner work, because the reality is you're going to get hit. You're going to get discouraged. You're going to get more no's than yeses. It may not happen and go well the first time, the first 2 or 3 times. And so you have to be so grounded and so clear of where you're going, so that like, I got to get through this.
Yeah.
Like, there's no turning back here. Right. And so the internal work that I do with people is first getting clear on that vision, so that again, where you're going, getting clear, getting committed to that vision.
Okay.
Uncovering your why. So why is it you? Why do you have to do this? And drilling deep and understanding your purpose, what it is that you bring and offer. Who do you need to be? Right? Who do you need to show up as each and every day that's going to make the difference in your life, the habits, the actions, the decisions, all right? So that we can be and then ultimately have what we want in this life, breaking free from the negative and limiting beliefs, even like I just said with the affirmations and the checking, like what are our thoughts? So key. Right? And that is going to help guide you. So it's a 5-step process that help guide you and uncover, okay, how do I keep going?
Yeah.
How do I be so sold in who I am and what I'm called to do that I go for it and I keep going for it until I get to where, again, whatever is lighting my soul, whatever I feel like I have to get out into the world.
Yeah. So the 5 steps are getting clear on your vision, committing to your vision, right? Figuring out what your why is and what your purpose is.
Correct.
Who you need to be in order to get there. Like what person are you acting from, or what place are you acting from as that person? And then breaking free from limiting beliefs.
Exactly. And then lastly, you have to get into action.
Taking action.
Bold, massive, consistent action. Not the like, oh, I'm feeling good today action, and then I don't send any more emails for a couple of days. Like, no, this is like, it has to compound over time.
Yeah.
And time is years.
What is your favorite method for helping people get clear about their vision? Is it journaling? Is it brainstorming, mind maps, anything that you particularly like to help people use, like any tools that they can use?
Yeah. So journaling definitely is a good thing. Like I said, silence, sitting with yourself for me is asking some of these good questions of uncovering, like, well, first, where are you? I like to start with where you are and where you want to be, right? And then we figure out, how do we fill in the gap, right? What's missing here, right? And then we help you get clear around that.
Yeah. And then for committing to that purpose or committing to that journey, what do you feel like that means to you? How is that Because I feel like that word can be almost like relative depending on who you are and what level you feel about commitment. Tell me what that means for you.
We take things so lightly, right? Like we water down things. Commitment is actually very strong. It's a declaration that, I have you make, and it's to yourself. Because you are the most important person. You're not declaring and committing to me. Like, I'm just here as a guide, as an aid, as a coach to you along the way. But you have to make the commitment to yourself, right? And honor your word, have that integrity for yourself. But commitment is going for something not because you have the money, not because oh, okay, like I can connect with this person. I can make that, that introduction. The commitment is going for what it is that you truly want. As scary, as big, as impossible as it sounds and seems to you now. Because one thing I've realized, Lauren, is like, I never knew. I never had the money. I never had the contacts, never. And through the commitment is when the opportunities showed up. Like I said, I started off as a broke college student. How did we grow this business? How did we get to be Mashable's top Black-owned businesses changing the world? Southern Living Beauty Awards, featured in Essence, Black Enterprise, did a TED Talk sharing how to break free from the plan and let your vision guide you. Went back to Ghana to celebrate the graduation of the girls we started the business to support. Did a commercial with Walmart and Pantene. I had no clue.
Yeah, but it was the commitment to
commitment.
Yeah.
And showing up and sending the emails when I didn't hear anything back.
Like you didn't let those things really make you think any differently about the process. You kind of just stayed the course.
It's like you take it on the chin.
Yeah.
You take it on the chin. Like, I'm not going to say it doesn't hurt, because it's like, we all think we have the greatest product and the greatest story. Why wouldn't you share this? Why, aren't people signing up or being clients or whatever the case may be? And so, I think it does get discouraging. That's the really real part about this. I'm not like glossing it over, like we have feelings.
Right.
But it's just the feeling. And that one person or those couple people saying no to you doesn't mean that it's a no, right? The silence so often scares people.
This is reminding me of, are you familiar with Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love? She wrote this part in the book Big Magic where have you read that book?
I haven't read it. I read Eat, Pray, Love. I haven't read Big Magic.
Big Magic is about like harnessing your creativity. So it's less of a novel about a story, although it includes many stories throughout. And she talks about in this part where she was writing, but after college or during college, I'm going to butcher this area of it, but she was sending her books to publishers, and she actually, what she talks about is she made a vow or like a commitment to her writing that she would always prioritize it and she would never let it go hungry, and she would create a life that would support her writing no matter what, like so that she could always write. But then she also would send manuscripts to publishers over and over again, and every time she received a no, she was like, it like fueled her even more to be like, well, oh, you don't like this? Just watch me. Wait till I'm the greatest writer of all time or something. And then she kind of used all of those no's as a game. And she said she just made it like a game. Like, let's see how many responses I can get this week, Exactly. And kind of that just reminds me of that. Like she made this commitment to her writing that she would never let it down. And she believed in it until it came to fruition and created this life, just much like how you have and how you've built this.
Yeah. And that's so much. I mean, she used that energy, and she used that energy to charge her, not deplete her.
Yep.
And it's always a choice. And I think also because we are so energetic that she didn't shift her energy to the negative, because it could have gone two ways. she could have gotten defeated and then like, again, deflated by the whole process and stopped.
Mm-hmm.
She was in control. She said, I control this story.
Mm-hmm.
I know where I'm going. I know what I have. I know why. I know who I have to be every day to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And so she wrote her story. This is like literal co-authorship or law of attraction.
Yeah.
In a very practical business sense, or in anything in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's not this like pie in the sky thing. It's like, no, like I'm going to tell life how this is going to happen.
And you can't be committed to something without purpose, right? Without your why, which is the next pillar kind of that you talk about. So do you think that the purpose comes first, or does the commitment come first? How does that work for you?
I would say typically purpose. You have to know where you're going and why you're going,
Mm-hmm.
That's why I said start with the clarity and the vision.
Right. Yeah.
What's the purpose? And then the commitment comes, because when you can really see it, Lauren,
Mm-hmm.
can feel it, then it's like, this is mine.
Yeah.
And I'm not stopping.
Absolutely. All right. Tell me about this part like made my ears perk up immediately, which is, who do you need to be?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that. Because I love this concept of, like, I've even seen TikTok influencers that are like, oh, I'm acting for my celebrity, my inner celebrity. And they like walk around as if they are a celebrity.
Yes.
And because they're walking around as if they are a celebrity already, they attract people to them the ways that celebrities would.
Mm-hmm.
I love to watch it. I love to see it. I love to see people acting from the place that they want to be.
Exactly.
So tell me more about that.
It's really the concept of like trying it on, like try on your wealth, try on the accomplishment, try on, that New York Times best-selling author, like show up as that.
Yeah.
Even in your story, Elizabeth was like, oh no, I am
Yeah.
this, best-selling author. I haven't sold a book.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean that I'm not who I say I am.
Mm-hmm.
And even I love this conversation on my show, The Journey with Blue. It was with Danielle Leslie. And I don't know if you're familiar with her story, but she grew her business, of course, from scratch, from zero to, I think at the time it was like $20 million in 4 or 5, right? Crazy. And so one of the things that Danielle said, she was like, when I was $100 Danielle, I would ask myself, what would $1 million Danielle do?
Yeah.
Each and every day.
Powerful.
And to start showing up as that, right? Put yourself in the energy and claim it. And this is something that I have to work on too, right? Because again, we default to the negative, and then our lives may look completely different. And it's like, well, Blue, how can I show up as this? How can I, what can I do? You start to show up as that. You choose it.
Give me an example, if you don't mind, of how you've kind of used that in your life. I think some people might say, well, I want to do that, but I don't really get how to do that in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how to shift the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think of and I probably will just speak to this recent brand partnership.
Okay.
Because, I think everyone always tells you on social media that you have like 10,000 plus followers. You have to have, hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube or whatever the case may be in order to get major brand deals. And I'm not saying like beauty brands or partnerships for $2,000, $5,000, even $10,000, and I don't have a crazy big community. I have a little less than 10,000 followers, but I do put out quality work. I have quality conversations, quality production, because that's how I see myself. Yeah. And that's how I want to show up. And just recently landed a major partnership with MasterCard, just came back from LA speaking to some of their exclusive card holders, and everything about the numbers would have told me I wasn't the person to do that.
Yes. This is such an excellent example of why those types of vanity metrics don't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah. It was, you show up in your excellence and you do it consistently. And then, sometimes people take notice, in a couple months. Sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever the case may be. But again, you keep showing up. You keep sending those emails. You keep giving what you have as if you have an audience of 10,000, 20,000 people waiting to hear from you. And that's something I still have to get better with, right? But it is something that I am mindful of and, constantly like improving and tweaking each day.
And what steps do you think, like if someone is like, well, I don't believe I can do this because I wasn't raised like this, or I don't know, none of my friends or family would support me in this, or any other number of limiting beliefs, and kind of, leaning into them, breaking through them is the next section of your framework. So how would people take all of this information and then say, well, I'm just not going to think about that limiting belief anymore?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of one of those things that, it takes time. Obviously, it takes a lot of intentional work. But can you give us some tips and tricks for kind of taking that and making it into something that we can use?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We all have the negative, the limiting beliefs, the story that we've created of who we are, where we've come from, what we think we didn't get, what we think we're lacking. So I think we all have that. And I think it's good for us to write it down. I think that's very therapeutic. And even going through therapy can help release you of some of like the deeper trauma, the deeper bonds and attachments that just aren't serving us. Right. But when you're able to write it down and when you are able to, again, affirm it and write it in the positive, right. And just speak life into yourself. Change that. Again, we have the control. We have the pen here.
Yeah.
And even in the ways that you feel like that you may not have received, I think sometimes it's just best for us to give that and to be that we can be the things that we didn't have growing up.
Yeah.
And transforming that. And, if you feel like you don't have the support, then be supportive to other people. Maybe, reach out to 1 or 2 other women that you can be around who you can support and inspire you. They may be women you've never met before. They may be people virtually. They may, it can come out of so many different ways. It may not come through our family and it may not come through our friends. And yes, I think a lot of us would want that, but that's okay. That's truly okay, right? And when we accept that it's okay, is when we release it. It's because we are putting like, this is such a bad thing, or these people don't love me, these people don't get me, these people don't support me. Because we have all these other stories around that, is what brings us down.
Yeah, assigning meaning to.
Yeah. But when we're just like, okay, they weren't able to do this. Right? Like, don't even say support. They weren't able to support me. Just say they weren't able to come to my show. They weren't able to come to my event. And just look at it as the objective hard facts. And just take it as that. We don't know what their story is. We don't know what their own traumas and holes and bonds may be. We don't know how we may actually, by showing up in love, can still inspire them to something, to open their hearts to something. So I try not to, be as definitive as like, oh,
yeah,
this is bad. They don't,
Yeah. I think the important thing I pull out of that you said is that limiting beliefs have a lot to do with the stories that you tell yourself. So if you think you can't do something for some reason, look at the story that is surrounding that and why you think that, and maybe even what filter you're looking at that through. Because it seems like there's a lot of filters that we kind of put up a bunch of different colored lenses in front of our eyes and see the world through those lenses. But if we can kind of move those away and see clearer, what do we still think that we can't do those things,
Yeah.
And then also, one thing that I would say that really changed my life as far as the things I believed I could or couldn't do is once I found community. And I think that like, especially with like what you said, like find a couple people that you feel that you can confide in, find a couple people that are in a similar boat as you, and kind of exchange and swap stories about challenges that you're having or things that you're celebrating, people that really understand what you're working through, whether that is a mastermind or if it's like an accelerator type group, or if it's just a group of people that you get together with on the weekends. Regardless of who it is, find those people and find that kind of community where you can share those things, especially as an entrepreneur, because it can feel so isolating.
Yeah.
And you don't want that to be the thing that drives you to feel like you can't do it. It's just feeling isolated, right?
The isolation is so key. And, you know, I always said that was really one of the main reasons why I started my show, The Journey with Blue, is because I felt like, first of all, I was starting this immediately after college 10 years ago. It wasn't a lot of people around me that were, you know, making these decisions, that were, you know, living the same lifestyle, who just got it. And so I felt very alone. And with me feeling alone, I also saw on social media all the highlights of everyone else. Cause I was like, oh, they're, you know, getting these contracts, they're making this money, they're, you know, flying here, whatever the case may be. And it made me start to question and doubt, like, well, am I the only one who's going through this? Am I the only one who's getting more no's than yeses? Am I the only one like really trying to figure this out? Right. And failing my way through. And I really wanted to create a space that was transparent, that was real, that allowed people to know that, yes, you can get it wrong and get it right on this journey. And that is just a part of it. The lessons, the sacrifices, the failures along the way is all inevitable.
Was there ever a fork in the road moment where you felt like, okay, I'm either going to go this way or this way, and you took the road and went for it? Tell us about a fork in the road that you might have had, because you've mentioned like the whole transition from this kind of retail or like
from the scarf
product base service into what you do now, and I feel like there's got to be a fork in the road moment in there that you can share with us.
Look at you reading my whole life, Lauren. Yeah, there definitely was a fork in the road moment, because like I said, it started with the scarves, went through a $40,000 loss, went through this whole transition of who am I? You know, who am I apart from my business? Am I a failure because of this business? And this was also a time when I was living in New York, and I was really just in a place where I didn't feel like I could bet on myself again. That I could, you know, that I said I couldn't stomach another leap, like another drop, another go. I just didn't know I had it in me, but I also didn't know where else to go. You know, I didn't, there's this quote, it's like, go without the rope. So on Batman, so one of the Batman movies, I can't remember. Are you familiar with what I'm telling you?
I'm not,
Okay.
This sounds familiar. Like I've heard it referenced before, but not on this show. So
yeah,
carry on. Tell me what.
You're like on edge. You're like,
I'm ready.
And one Batman movie, Batman was in this underground like prison, right? And so there was one singular rope that the prisoners could use to attempt to escape the prison. And so daily, prisoners would take their attempts, would stand at the rope, trying to climb themselves out of this deep underground prison. And daily, they would fall. They would get to different levels, almost to the top, and they would fall. And this older gentleman, he told Batman one day after so many attempts, he said, the key is to go without the rope, to not have the safety net, to not have the plan B, to have the plan C. This was the vision. And I had one vision. I didn't have any other, you know, I didn't have a job to go back to or anything like that. This was all I wanted. This is all I knew. And so again, I didn't have the contingency plans. And when I didn't give myself any ulterior options, it gave me the chance to stay true to my journey and what it is that I really wanted to do.
That's beautiful. Do you remember the moment that you kind of thought, like, maybe I should move into this different space here?
with the journey with Blue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I have been thinking about that even prior to, I was going to do both in conjunction, right? The show and selling the scarves. And so I had that idea prior to the failure. And so it was something that I just, continued to move in. Like I was excited about it. I was energetic about it. I had never done it before. People always ask me like, did you do journalism? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I just called my friend up one day and was like, I want to do, a talk show. I need you to do video for it. She was like, I've never done video. I was like, well, I've never been a host. So here we go.
Here we are. Yeah, it's beautiful production too.
Oh,
I will say.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So, and it's grown over time. And I just keep going for it. And even with that, there came other transitions because with the pandemic, most of my life, all of my life really came to a halt from doing like in-person events, in-person conversations. I had just closed at the time, it was my biggest contract and opportunity. And 2 weeks later is when the pandemic happened.
Goodness. Yeah.
And just like that, I was starting over from scratch again. Right? Figuring it out and navigating. So now I have two businesses simultaneously. I have the Journey with Blue, where I lead the conversations and I coach people in stepping into their purpose. But I also own an education consulting company where I work with the New York City Department of Education, supporting thousands of students basically to do the same.
Oh, I love that.
To understand what are the possibilities available to them. All right. And I had the idea for that business prior to the pandemic, but once the pandemic hit and I had no more income from my other things, and I was on unemployment was about to run out. So I kind of was like, I kind of got to do it.
Yeah.
I was scared. I didn't have any contacts in the education space, Lauren. I had never done that before. Who was I to think that I could work with the government? But the New York City Department of Education, the largest DOE system in the United States, was able to grow that business in less than a year to a 6-figure business in this industry and space I had no clue about. But again, transferring the same principles that I teach adults to high schoolers.
Yeah.
That's right.
Amazing.
How do they get introduced to understanding the purpose and possibilities to them? How do they understand that failure is okay, that failure is a part of the process, that it's okay to get it wrong, and it's okay to go again, and it's okay to have all of the feelings. How do we manage it, and how do we move with it? It's the same work across the board.
Yeah, it seems like it can be applied to business, life, relationships. It can be applied to everything.
Anything. And my Take the Leap framework, which I just shared with you, I can use that even in my, like you said, in my relationship, and any decision that I'm making, truly. It's like, I can go back through that. What is the vision that I have in my relationship? Why? Why do I feel like this is the partner or the person for me? Because it's not easy. No relationship's easy. So you got to be grounded in the why. I had to look at who am I being in the relationship, not just who they are. How am I showing up? What is the experience that I'm creating? What's the energy that I'm bringing? Right. And so taking all that into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. This is awesome. Okay. So the last step is taking bold, massive, consistent action. Tell me more about that. What does that mean to you?
Because you know what? I am a planner. I'm a thinker. We love to be in our heads.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't do anything out here in the world for us, Lauren. No. And so, I like to plan. I love my journals just as much as any other woman, any other girl. And what I find out is we already know what it is we want to do. There's some tweaking and, like some deeper diving deeper are some of the things that we do, but we already know. We just need to actually get out of our head and get into action.
Do you have any steps for taking that? Any tips for taking that first step?
Start small. Start small. Do what you can do. And that's what I support people with in the 3 months. It is an intensive. It is moving with massive and consistent action. It's doing the things that you probably wouldn't have done on your own.
Mm-hmm.
so that you can get to where it is you ultimately want to be.
Yeah. I'm excited to keep following you and kind of see what that looks like for you, for others that you help. I have a question. Since you also have a show where you talk to people a lot and you ask great questions and, really get to the bottom of how they feel about certain things, what is one of your favorite questions to ask people?
I don't know if I have a go-to question, Lauren. And yeah, that's a really great point. Because every question is so
different.
So different. But I like it's all about the inner work.
Yeah.
It's not about the marketing strategy, the social media, the ads. Like it is really about who did you have to become?
Mm-hmm.
How did you have to show up? What did you have to overcome? And what did you have to heal?
Mm-hmm.
Right? To get here.
Yeah.
And
I like those questions.
Yeah, I think, that's the best thing that we can give ourselves is the time, is the healing. Because even like I said, if you can get to the success without that, you can get the money, you can get the notoriety, but you want to get there and you want to be whole.
Right.
You want to be well and you want to be able to enjoy it because it's not about the money. It's about what it is you get to create. What's the feeling that you want to have? And so, I even encourage people to think about tapping into that feeling even now, before the six figures, before someone is recognizing you, because that's the thing that we truly want. And the money's good, but it's fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
That feeling doesn't stay long, right? So if you can genuinely be in that feeling now, then it only gets better when you do get there.
I really like that a lot. The last question that I want to ask you that I love asking everyone that comes on the show is, what myth do you want to debunk for us? It could be about literally anything. It doesn't have to be about finding your purpose or leaning into fear. But if there's a myth that you're just like, oh, when people say this, I just need to set it straight.
That is so funny. It's like, what's my soapbox, basically?
Yeah, what's your soapbox?
Oh, that's a good one, Lauren. Let's see. What is a myth? Okay, this is so random.
I love it. Tell me.
Because people can't see, but I'm like, a small person. And I'm thinking about this because yesterday I was eating a burger, this umami burger, which is so good in LAX. And somebody was like, oh, you eat burgers? I'm like, I love to eat. I love to cook. I love I literally will travel to eat. And so like food is like definitely like one of my biggest pleasures of life. And cooking for people. People think like I'm just like, I don't know. But
yeah, it's
a very minor myth, but that's something that
no, oh my gosh, it's honestly such a good point that you can't judge a person's lifestyle by what they look like, because there's so many people out there that love food, but that are like tiny people. And there's people with illnesses that stop them from being able to metabolize, big burgers, or there's people that are vegetarians and vegans, and there's all of these different ways that you're like, why don't we just stop judging people by what they look like?
There's so much judgment on every spectrum of things. It's like you can't get it right. Like no one's ever going to be happy. So it's like, just do you.
Imagine walking up to someone at our airport and saying, oh, you eat burgers, by the way.
Well, somebody on FaceTime that
okay. I thought it was somebody just randomly at the airport.
Yeah, someone on FaceTime, she was like, oh, you eat burgers? Like, yes.
Yes, I do. That's so funny.
Anyway, sorry, that's the only thing I could think of.
Hey, I love it. It's funny, and that's what I really like, is to just bring out the thing that you're like, I got to get on my soapbox about this. Random. First thing that comes to mind. Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for being on the Real Personal Branding podcast today and sharing your wealth of knowledge about fear and why you aren't getting what you want out of life and overcoming self-doubt and limiting beliefs. We're so happy that you're here, and I really appreciated this time with you.
Thank you, Lauren. This was great. I'm excited for this and pray that, people receive something from it. Hopefully you get a chance to watch the show, The Journey with Blue, and follow along on Instagram at the Michelle Blue to just get tapped into the world.
Absolutely. And we always make sure that we put all of that information inside our show notes, and we'll tell you more about where to find Michelle in the outro. So thank you so much, Michelle. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Real Personal Branding with my guest, Michelle Bluitt. What did you think? I want to hear from you. I love to know what stood out to you about this episode so I can continue bringing you more content you like. Come find me on Instagram or LinkedIn at ldaviscreative and let's have a conversation about it. Let's be real friends. Or if you love learning about personal branding, please join me in my free Facebook group called Personal Branding and Social Media for Entrepreneurs. And by the way, my guests love when you highlight them too. Feel free to screenshot this episode and post about it, or message Michelle Bluitt. Let her know that you love this episode, and believe it or not, it makes a huge difference to me. It makes a huge difference to my guests to hear that you enjoyed the episode too. And in case you're interested, I wanted to let you know that this fall, Molly Gershom and I are hosting an accelerator for women entrepreneurs who are working on their business or their big idea. It's only $299. I just want to be upfront about that right away, about the price. It's $299, and it gets you 6 weeks of community, a hub for conversation, access to Molly and I, weekly educational calls with national experts who are all women. And we're going to be talking about sales, money mindset, finances, personal branding, social media, and more. I would love for you to be part of it. Again, only $299, and we will drop the link to that in the show notes. Thank you for tuning into the Real Personal Branding Podcast. I will talk to you next time.